This is Johnny Bluestar. Join us on our next show where we meet Jeremy Montanez, a Trump dissident whose edited appearance on CNN got him into a world of trouble. He wanted to clarify his views about the actions on the southern border and the government shutdown, so we invited him to our show to tell his story. Of course, these days, everything begins and ends with Trump, probably because we are amazed at his consistency in holding firm to whatever he promises. That's why his loyal base loves him so much. Here's one of his promises.
Government shutdown, eruption, system breaking down. Government shutdown, obstruction, police are all around.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you shouldn't shut it down.
Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to be working very hard to get something passed in the Senate. There's a very good chance it won't get passed. It's up to the Democrats. So it's really the Democrat shutdown, because we've done our thing. When Nancy Pelosi said you'll never get the votes in the House, we got them, and we got them by a big margin. Now it's up to the Democrats as to whether or not we have a shutdown tonight. I hope we don't, but we're totally prepared for a very long shutdown. And this is our only chance that we'll ever have, in our opinion, because of the world and the way it breaks out, to get great border security. One way or the other, we're going to get a wall, we're going to get a barrier, we're going to get anything you want to name it. You can name it anything you want.
This is how many federal workers were furloughed or sent home. Some essential workers were forced to work. They would get their paychecks after the shutdown ended. Almost half of these workers would not get paychecks during the duration of the shutdown.
According to a bunch of estimates, it looks like we are shaving about $1.2 billion per week from the economy. That is because those affected, like the one in Chip Reed's story there, are not spending money. But also, the government itself reduces purchases for products and services during this closure. Then we take it to the next level. Some consumers are actually not able to secure federally backed loans. Big companies who are waiting to go public, they're going to wait even longer, at least until the Securities and Exchange Commission reopens. And as a result, when you talk to economists right now, they were already worried about the economy slowing down in 2019. Now, first quarter growth estimates are being cut by about 0.25%, looking at about 2.5% growth in the first quarter. By the way, I look back to 2013, which was the previous longest shutdown. Because of that shutdown, contingency planning, lost user fees, back pays, taxpayers shelled out over $2 billion in 2013. So I think we're looking at something close to that right now.
All of this is about the wall, whose value is described by the president is questioned by many members of Congress, as well as many experts who believe that many other security measures must be deployed. We now have this specific contrivance, an element of border security, something that should be approved by Congress, holding up government workers from being able to pay rent, mortgages, medical supplies, food, insurance, repair cars and appliances, move into new homes or apartments, pay for children's daycare, and so on. So many critical expenses needed for daily living. But not to diminish the suffering of our government workers, you also have this fact that this wall is tied to an essential deterrence policy which has yielded confusion and terror to hundreds of asylum seekers, whose fate as human beings is even worse than the horrible, undeserved effects on government workers. So in light of the misery and inhuman activities of the administration so far, how can we really trust this wall will function in light of the absence of concern for those terrified people coming to the border? Here's some of Trump's actions involving immigrants trying to get into the United States.
Nearly 6,000 troops here received new orders from their commander-in-chief today.
If they have to, they're going to use lethal force.
But the official White House order, which may be challenged in court, says deadly force could only be used when reasonably necessary to ensure the protection of federal personnel. The president also threatened a total shutdown of the U.S.-Mexico border if the Mexican government fails to secure its side.
We will close entry into the country for a period of time until we can get it under control. The whole border. I mean, the whole border.
After traveling hundreds of miles, sometimes on foot, asylum seekers have been shackled and detained. Their children separated from them. Their children are put in cages. Sometimes their parents were deported without any responsible way known to contact them, leaving the children behind. Sometimes the children were moved to other parts of the country. Workers looking over the traumatized children were not allowed to touch them. Children appeared in court alone with no understanding of where they were. Claims were that the children were associated with inappropriate medication. Recently, 2 Guatemalan children die in U.S. custody.
We don't need no immigration. We don't need no immigration. We don't need no immigration.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies.
I think maybe after all this time and turmoil, perhaps we should not be focusing on what someone thinks we don't need. After all, immigration is what made this country great. Further, do we really think a wall, whether out of steel or concrete, is really what we need? This is a beautiful country, primed to be a center point of truth and justice in the midst of a troubled world. I think what we need is not a wall, an anti-immigration policy, a lethal force policy on the border, a separation of families and shackling of asylum seekers, a tear gas attack on children on the parents, and so many other things. What we need is a moral compass. Then maybe we can stop all this nonsense, open up the government again, and have a rational, compassionate, and bipartisan discussion about immigration. Surely physical barriers will be part of the plan, and maybe Trump will be happy with a more secure border that everyone agrees on. And maybe, just maybe, we can begin to get our country back.